Could this be the coolest Tacoma on today's current market? I'm gonna take a close in-depth review to see exactly what this 2025 TRD Pro Tacoma has to offer. My name's Aiden with Upper James Toyota, and let's get into this truck. If you guys are in the market for a new or used vehicle, do not forget to click the link in the top of our description. Now, let's talk TRD Pro. Now, nothing is really new. This used to be a trim level offered on the prior generation Tacoma. However, a few big differences onto the new design. It's a new powertrain and it's a new body style, outside and in. They have made some exceptional changes onto this Tacoma. So bye-bye to the 3.5 liter V6 naturally aspirated on that prior generation Tacoma, which really didn't make any significant numbers if you asked me. But in comes this new 2.4 liter four-cylinder paired up with a turbo and our iForce Max hybrid system, which would be making about 326 horsepower paired up with 465 pound-feet of torque going through an 8-speed automatic gearbox, which are some pretty serious numbers from a little four-cylinder. Now, talking front-end styling, I love the fact that Toyota has kind of stuck with their roots and they have kept in some things that they added into the prior generation Tacoma. One of those being your front and rear turn signal. So your front turn signals and your rear turn signals will both be sequential. And I love the look of that it kind of starts on one end and moves into the middle. I've always thought about that on those older Mustangs. You know, growing up as a kid, I'd always see those, and seeing those turn signals start on one end and move towards the end of that bumper, I thought was pretty cool. And I love the fact that that is now on this vehicle in front of me today. I also love the fact that Toyota has decided to take exactly what came from the Tundra, which was this LED light bar. So underneath your massive Toyota, that's written across your front bumper here, I love the fact that this light bar, it's only exclusive to one of these vehicles, just like the Tundra was. But I love that. I love the fact that you can kind of have this, really, standalone feature on this vehicle. Now, obviously, I do know you can have that on the Trail Hunter, but I've only ever seen one of those ever in my life. We've never had a new one arrive at our dealership yet. And if we ever do get one, I want to show that off because obviously that looks pretty different versus this very off-road beefy style TRD Pro that is here today. I also love the fact that Toyota has integrated these rigid fog lamps that are gonna sit parallel to the actual road ahead of you. And I like that because it's gonna give you more visibility off the front end versus say a fog light, situated more to the corners of the bumpers or that are typically round from Toyota. So I love the fact that, they've kind of changed around that different design to obviously give more practicality and use out of, the front lighting of a vehicle, which is definitely important. Now, touching upon a couple things that I really do love on this vehicle. You see TRD Pro written a lot on the outside. It's written here on the actual corners of your headlights here. It's written up here. It's written on the inside, on the back. I will touch over a few of those spots, but I think it's pretty cool that there's all these little, little snippets of just TRD Pro throughout this vehicle, because obviously getting into one of these, it is a pretty exclusive truck. Now, talking about this truck, I actually love it in white, and I love it in white even more because I love the fact that they have gone with gloss black fender flares. Same with your front bumper. There's not a whole lot of matte black plastic you will see anywhere on this truck. And I love, love, love the decision Toyota has made to integrate this split roof. So I love the fact it's white with the black roof, and obviously that's shared amongst, a Corolla hatchback, a specific RAV4, Crown Signias, depending on how you're speccing your vehicle. I love the fact that, something like that typically is not on one of our pickup trucks. And I think that having that black roof with your black mirror caps, your fender flares, your, hood scoop on your front hood, I love that the vehicle just looks way more well-rounded. And it's not just one little bit here and one little bit there. They've done a pretty good job to really, make this vehicle aesthetically look very pleasing. You guys can let me know down below in the comments what you think. Now, before we get to the rear end of this Tacoma, I'm gonna talk about tires and shocks, because obviously the Tacoma Hybrid being offered in two different off-road styles. You can go TRD Pro or you can go Trail Hunter. A couple big differences between those two packages. Number one, shocks on this bad boy are gonna be Bilsteins. Now, that's a pretty good shock, and that was what was on the prior generation TRD Pro also. However, moving up to that Trail Hunter grade, you'll be getting Old Man Emu shocks. Now, I've never driven a Trail Hunter, nor have I seen that vehicle. vehicle. So when I do get one, I will definitely do a review on it just to see exactly how this one drives versus that one, because obviously they're going to be pretty similar in the sense that both those are very off-road capable, and that's typically what people would probably do getting one of these trucks. However, I love just the look of this actual tire. I love the 18-inch, very off-road looking tire. You can see with the grooves on this bad boy that this could take on some different terrain. So I love the fact that Toyota, shows a very off-road appearance, but they're also giving a lot of capabilities directly from the manufacturer. So you're not having to upgrade tires and shocks and all of these interesting things, far and through. I really think that they have done a cool job to include that, and something you're not paying anything extra for. Now, wrapping back to the rear end of this vehicle and talking about the rear tailgate of one of these new TRD Pro Tacomas. I love the fact that, this gloss black theme has really intertwined, and they've done a really good job to show that throughout the entire vehicle. I also love the fact that Toyota has now integrated a very easy and accessible way to get into, the bed of your truck by simply pushing this little button situated on your rear brake light. Obviously, your tailgate has now come down. And I also like the fact that, we offer that on other vehicles too, just like the Tundra. But obviously, being in the car business and seeing other manufacturers, I love the fact that having something like that, yes, it's mechanical, but I love the fact that theoretically, I could just come over here and sit and it still feels very, very sturdy. So you don't have to, worry about only putting, light things on your tailgate. You can actually put quite a bit on this bad boy and obviously not have to worry about, it maybe breaking or having to replace anything like that. And then simply to close it, hit that same button that you did to open it, and there you go. Your TRD Pro is back and closed, and you can, take all the stuff that you had in the bed and go inside or put it in the garage. I like the fact that TRD Pro is written in massive letters on your rear, tailgate here. However, I don't like the fact that it color matches the color that you get your vehicle in. I wish that they would offer this, that if you got the white version, this would be, just like the new 4Runners, this, integrated gloss black bold letters that actually come out from the actual paint and the panel of the actual vehicle to really show a different depth of, showing other people what you're in when you're currently driving on the road. Other than that though, they've done a great job, an absolute phenomenal job. I think that this now is a TRD Pro that I see the value in, that I would actually want to buy this vehicle. I didn't think the old generation really gave me that. There was really nothing on the inside or outside that I was really, super in favor for. So you guys let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. All right, now jumping into the TRD Pro Tacoma, I'm gonna touch on something that I typically don't really chat a whole lot about in my videos, and that's gonna be the seats. Now, obviously I mentioned, the seats are leather, they're soft tex, so on and so forth. They're cool, they're heated, the list can go on and on. However, just talking comfortability wise, these seats have to be one of our most comfortable seats we have ever put in one of our vehicles. And I've mentioned this in a few other vehicles that we've been in. I would say the closest thing to this would actually be the Grand Highlander Hybrid Max or the Platinum. I think those seats definitely hug you very well. However, just the actual look and the feel of these seats, I feel so comfortable sitting in them. Now, the seats is a really, really cool talking point. These come with isodynamic performance seats. So on the back of these carbon back, or the exposed carbon back seats, you can actually adjust how stiff, you want your seat to feel. So it could kind of be a bit more floaty, so you're not feeling as many bumps as a typical setting. You could obviously make it very stiff, so obviously you're feeling a lot more of the road or the terrain that you're on. I think that is a really, really cool feature. And to be honest, when I originally saw this vehicle, a video that someone posted on Instagram, I saw the backs of these seats and I was like, there's no way. There's no way that Toyota put that in, a manufactured vehicle that's not an add-on or, a very, very limited special edition. Obviously, getting a TRD Pro is maybe not the easiest, but this is just how they come. So I think that was a very cool surprise, at least that I had when I actually saw one of these in person. Now, sitting in one of these, they've done a very good job just to lay this out like a typical Tacoma. I like the fact that you see a lot of the differences between TRD Pro and just the regular stuff that you would get in a more fully loaded, Tacoma. I love the fact that this like little exposed, carbon looking material is on your dash here. It's got Toyota embroidered on, in front of your passenger, which I love. There's black on top, a little red underneath to kind of show you that, the TRD Pro is always that like black and red or like the black and orange. So I like that they've kind of continued that theme, especially with all the TRD on the inside of this. Just like your steering wheel, it's got that, it's kind of funny, that little center racing stripe to let you know exactly, if your lines are actually straight with obviously the tires on the road. You've got your TRD shift knob, your start button, the floor mats, the TRD embroidered in your actual seats. I think what they've done to really, exaggerate the fact that you're, not in a typical Tacoma, they've done a pretty cool job. Pair that up with obviously all the new screens and new safety sense features, JBL sound system, with one of my new favorite features that we can offer on any one of our vehicles, which is our pop-up JBL sound system. I think that what they have done to really cater this vehicle for, an everyday use or just someone who wants something different on today's market, Toyota has done a really, really good job. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I'm gonna jump into the back seats because I've always said this, getting into a TRD Pro, Toyota claims that the new Tacomas are 3% bigger than the prior generation, which if you're gonna ask me, that is very minimal and it's not something why I would buy one of these. Obviously, I wanna love the look, love the drive, love the features, but I'm interested to see what these rear seats will do for any of your rear passengers. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. All right, this will be interesting. Let's try and get into the back of this new TRD Pro. Now, I had to move the seat up twice just in order to actually fit back here. Now, I will tell you this, being someone who is a bit taller, my headroom is nothing great. I would not be buying this truck if I'm ever gonna be loading this up with 4 people or 5 people, because that would be a very, very adventurous way to go about having this vehicle. If you had smaller kids, maybe that's more manageable for your everyday life. However, looking at these back seats, I love the look of them. There's nothing about this that seems normal in Toyota's world. This is something that we typically never offer on one of our vehicles, and it is pretty cool that this is just the way this vehicle comes from the factory. I think, just the looks of it alone is a buying feature for me. I don't know what that is, but I think it's just so cool that they've added this onto this truck. However, practicality-wise, yeah, I'm not that comfortable. I know what their idea behind this was, to add this little, insert, which is actually pretty soft on the back of it too, just in case your legs can fit there. But unfortunately, there's really no way for me to sit comfortably back here. I'm kind of right on the edge of my headroom. I'm basically on the edge of my, leg room as well. And anyone that's driving this truck in front of me would need to be a bit smaller because I need this seat as far up as I can go. So to be honest, do I agree with Toyota that the space has increased 3%? Probably not. They may have me on, cubic feet if you want to measure it like that. But obviously, people typically don't measure stuff in cubic feet. You typically have to go in to see it. And I would not be able to tell the difference between 220 versus 225 cubic feet. So if you're one of those people, I'm jealous because at least for me, I can't tell a huge difference. And if I was in the market to get one of these, this would simply be for me and the person that I'm with, because I don't think, any rear passengers would be that comfortable back here. I also didn't touch upon the fact that this is featured with black interior. You can get this with the red interior. I've seen it once at the auto show. I think it looked pretty cool, but it's a very bright red. If you know our Camry red, it's basically the exact same thing. So the cockpit red, which was obviously then shared on the old generation Tacoma, and the TRD Pro version of the Tundra, that was a pretty cool feature. And obviously typical that most vehicles come with either, a black or a tan interior these days, but significantly more on the black side. I like that you have that customization to go red if you wanted to. However, I like the way this is spec'd. If I'm getting a TRD Pro Tacoma, this is my dream spec sitting in front of me. You guys can let me know down below in the comments. So let's wrap things up talking about some numbers on the TRD Pro Tacoma. Now, one of these bad boys, even though it's powered by a 4-cylinder, fuel efficiency is not going to be the greatest. Toyota's going to say this will average a combined 10.3 liters combined between city and highway driving, which I guess isn't terrible in the pickup, grand scheme of things. However, for the smaller pickup side, this being a hybrid and only a 4-cylinder, maybe it's not the greatest between other manufacturers on the market. And then we talk about price. One of these bad boys will be coming in at a starting MSRP $78,674. And it's kind of funny what Toyota's been doing with different MSRPs, because typically it would be $78,500 or $78,800. It's really interesting how they're adding these, weird dollar amounts towards the end of their numbers. I don't really know why they're doing that, but it definitely makes it interesting and fun for me to actually remember every single one of these MSRPs that I am shooting. Now, if you guys are in the market for TRD Pro Tacoma, let me know. Also, let me know if you want one / if you have one. I'm always wanting to know what customers are looking for, if they've driven it, if they think it's worth it, or if they'll get that prior generation. So leave a comment down below. I'm gonna be going through some of these in our future videos. Again, my name is Aiden with Upper James Toyota. If you did like this video, please do not forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of our future Toyota related content, and I'll check you guys out in the next video.